Balancing action, description, and dialogue is a cornerstone of compelling storytelling. Each of these elements brings its own unique energy to a narrative. Action moves the plot forward, description immerses the reader in the world, and dialogue reveals character and creates connections. Striking the right balance allows a novel to be dynamic, emotionally resonant, and fully engaging. Here's an in-depth exploration of how to balance these three elements in your novel. 1. Understanding the roles of action, description, and dialogue. Before diving into techniques, it's essential to understand what each element brings to your story. Action. This is what your characters do. Actions create movement, cause and effect sequences, and tension. Well-paced action can add momentum, keeping readers turning pages. Description. This involves setting the scene, building atmosphere, and grounding the reader in the sensory details of your story world. Good description creates vivid imagery, contributing to tone and helping readers visualize the story. Dialogue. This is what your characters say. Dialogue brings character personalities to life, creates tension, and can often reveal more than a direct narrative. It's where character relationships and conflicts come alive. Each of these elements is crucial on its own, but combining them thoughtfully gives your narrative flow and depth. 2. Action, moving the story forward. A. Write active, impactful scenes. Action sequences, whether high stakes or subtle, should always serve a purpose. Avoid unnecessary action that doesn't develop the plot or characters. When writing action, use strong, specific verbs. Rather than saying, "He walked quickly," you could write, "He hurried," or "He strode." This economy of language makes actions feel more dynamic. Be clear and concise. Readers should be able to visualize action scenes without needing to reread passages. Keep sentences shorter and more direct in action-heavy scenes to maintain pace. B. Control the pacing of action. High-stakes action, for critical moments, e.g., a confrontation or an escape. A faster pace with short sentences and quick paragraph breaks can create urgency. Routine actions, everyday actions, e.g., walking to a coffee shop, can be described with more detail, setting a relaxed pace. Use these slower moments to offer insights into characters or to set the mood. C. Blend action with character development. Actions should also serve to reveal character. How someone acts under stress or in a relaxed moment gives readers insight into their personality. For example, a character slamming a door versus gently closing it can convey very different emotions. Describe body language to reveal inner conflict or discomfort. Crossed arms, clenched fists, or shifting feet can imply tension without a word spoken. 3. Description, setting the scene. Make your descriptions specific and sensory. Descriptions that appeal to the senses draw readers into the story. Visuals, colors, shapes, and motion create vivid imagery. Sounds, the murmur of voices, crunch of footsteps, or eerie silence adds depth. Touch, taste, and smell. Describing the texture of a surface, the scent of a room, or the taste of a meal makes the world more immersive. For example, instead of "the forest was dark," try "the forest pressed around them, dense with the scent of pine and the whisper of unseen creatures." B. Avoid overloading with description. While description is vital, avoid long blocks that slow down the story. Lengthy descriptions can disengage readers, especially if they don't contribute to the scene. Here's how to maintain a good flow. Show don't tell. Instead of "the house was creepy," you could describe its cracked windows, peeling paint, or eerie silence. Embed description in action. Describe a setting or character as events unfold. For instance, "He squinted at the yellowing, crumbling map under the flickering light," adds atmosphere while maintaining movement. C. Use description to reinforce theme and mood. Your descriptions should reflect the tone and mood of the story. For instance, in a horror novel, you might describe how shadows cling to the corners of a room. In a romance, you might emphasize warmth and softness, like the blush of dawn or the gentle sway of leaves in a summer breeze. 4. Dialogue, bringing characters to life. Make dialogue purposeful. Good dialogue is natural but concise. Each line should have a reason for being there, whether to reveal a plot point, deepen character, or create tension. Here are a few strategies. Subtext. What isn't said can be just as powerful as what is. If a character says, "I'm fine," but their actions, like fidgeting or avoiding eye contact, suggest otherwise, it adds layers to the dialogue. Voice. Each character should have a unique way of speaking, informed by their background, personality, and motivations. Avoid making all characters sound alike. B. Use dialogue tags and action beats strategically. Dialogue tags, e.g., "she said," clarify who's speaking, while action beats, short actions interwoven with dialogue, reveal the speaker's emotions and reactions. Tags. Keep them simple. Said and asked are often all you need. Action beats. Instead of "Are you coming?" she asked nervously, try "Are you coming?" She glanced at the clock, tapping her foot against the floor. C. Control the rhythm of dialogue for impact. In intense or emotional exchanges, short lines with minimal action can create a back-and-forth momentum. In contrast, slower exchanges allow for pauses and introspection, making space for character reflection. 5. Techniques to balance action, description, and dialogue. A. Transition seamlessly between elements. Transitions between action, description, and dialogue should feel natural. Use action to introduce a scene, add description to build atmosphere, and then use dialogue to bring out character dynamics. Here's an example. Sarah brushed past the overgrown hedges, ducking as a low-hanging branch nearly grazed her face. The house loomed ahead, its windows like dark eyes in the crumbling facade. She turned to Mark, her voice low. Are you sure this is the place? Mark didn't answer immediately. He stared up at the house, swallowing hard. This example weaves action, description, and dialogue in a way that establishes setting, builds suspense, and develops character interaction. B. Layering techniques. Instead of isolating action, description, and dialogue, try layering them to create richer scenes. For instance, "It's just an old house," he muttered, his eyes darting to the shattered windows. He stepped inside, the wooden floor groaning underfoot, dust swirling in the pale light from the doorway. Here, dialogue, action, and description create a multi-dimensional scene. C. Use pacing to guide balance. In fast-paced scenes, like a chase or confrontation, minimize description and focus on action and sharp dialogue. For slower scenes, like intimate conversations or moments of reflection, you can allow for more descriptive language and introspective dialogue. 6. Examples of balanced writing. To illustrate, here are examples of balanced scenes with varying levels of action, description, and dialogue. A. Action-driven scene. In a high-stakes scene, action takes precedence, with minimal description and dialogue. The car screeched to a halt, tires skidding on wet pavement. Laura threw herself out, stumbling as her heels caught on the sidewalk. She turned, eyes wild. "Run," she shouted over her shoulder. B. Description-driven scene. In a slower, atmospheric scene, description can set the tone and evoke emotion. The library was silent, save for the faint rustle of pages. Rows upon rows of books lined the shelves, their spines faded and worn. Dust motes floated in the air, illuminated by a single beam of afternoon light filtering through a stained glass window. C. Dialogue-driven scene. In an emotionally charged moment, dialogue becomes the focus, with minimal action or description. "You knew, didn't you?" Her voice was barely a whisper. He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "It wasn't that simple, wasn't it?" 7. Practice and adaptation. Balancing action, description, and dialogue is a skill that improves with practice. Here's how to develop it. 1. Read and analyze. Study books in your genre and analyze how authors balance these elements. 2. Experiment with drafts. Write scenes focusing on different balances to see which feels best. 3. Get feedback. Having fresh eyes on your work can help you see where you might need more action, less dialogue, or tighter description. Final thoughts. Achieving a harmonious balance of action, description, and dialogue brings richness and depth to your novel, making it immersive and compelling. Like any skill, it takes time to develop, but with practice, you'll find the rhythm that suits your unique storytelling style. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you all in the next video.